Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday. And it feels so great to have a guest in the house today, not just me. And of all the guests that I could have, G and G, we got G-Force going on here today. Yay! I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So our topic today is going to be from oh no to let's glow, turning speaker snafus into brand gold. I absolutely love this title. And G helped me come up with it because it was just like a great, great title because she's the golden girl. You know, you're gold with everything you do, G. So I absolutely love that.
Yay. And thank you for that. And if I may say, I didn't even come up with the gold, and this is random. It just occurred to me. I'm wearing this, it's gold. And I didn't even think about the title with this, but yeah, it's just my thing today. I was in the mood, and yeah. So hi. I'm just happy to be here. It's great to see you back on American soil.
I agree. It's fun to be here. It's fun to be back into my normal schedule, not me just standing in train stations blathering on about buses and everything else that I'm going through. So I'm back in the United States. So before we get stuck in though and start talking, G, can you just quickly introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what you do, and then we'll start talking.
Sure, absolutely, everyone. I'm Gehan, or G for short, for obvious reasons, and I'm the founder and creative consultant with Golden Synergy Touch. I have a 20-plus year HR background, recently pivoting into niching, and Gillian, you'll appreciate this. It's niching to do LinkedIn training and CliftonStrengths, YouMap, really for HR professionals, and focusing on going in that direction. I've been doing a lot of consulting work over the years, but really energized. And also in the spirit of this topic, speaking is becoming very important to me, stepping up my game in that realm. And frankly, because video's great, but there's nothing like being in front of a live audience. So I'm really excited there. So
yay!
If that covers it, I hope I covered everything, but
I think you did good. So we wanted to talk about speaker snafus because when you start speaking, so whether we're talking about, you know, being in an in-person presentation, and you and I have both had that in separate places, and also, of course, lives. And, you know, my gosh, we both have our share of speaker snafus going live. So we can kind of talk about both topics today. And one of the things that I found really interesting, G, is that you recently had a speaking engagement, and it was in Arizona. And I absolutely marveled at what you had to do because it was something I have never done, where it was a timed presentation. So I've done timed presentations, but yours was a little bit different. Can you explain what that was?
Absolutely. So I participated in something called Disrupt HR, and it's global. They've been around for over 10 years. So disrupthr.co, if you're interested in what it is, think TEDx, right? So think of these timed talks. Well, in this particular case with Disrupt HR, they're very specifically timed to 5 minutes. And what it is, it's a series of talks or presenters, myself included, basically going through 20 slides. It's a timed presentation, auto advancing every 15 seconds. So there's memorization to some degree. And it's storytelling, but it's very specific. It's very timed, and it's meant to leave people thinking, similar to TEDx, that big idea, or giving HR professionals, really anyone, you know, a takeaway and something that will empower and energize people when they go back to their workforce and just in collaborating with others in general. So it's hugely energizing, and it was a phenomenal experience. I would do it again in a heartbeat, but I participated in Disrupt HR Tucson, and yeah, it was amazing.
Wow. So were you able to do that? Like, did you meet the objective that you were able to just like blip, 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 slide, blip, 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 slide?
I did. So one of the things, and going back to not always understanding exactly what you're going to be hit with day of, bearing in mind, so I'm in Dallas, Texas. So I'm in North Dallas, and the venue is in Tucson. And what I didn't know beforehand was the makeup of the venue. I had somewhat of a general idea of where and how I'd be presenting. And I knew my presentation. Of course, I memorized and practiced. Even then, it's not perfect, right? You do your best. But what I didn't know exactly, even going into it day of, was what the layout was going to be. What I have those, I think someone referred to them as comfort screens or comfort monitors, just to be able to quickly see. So you're not looking at a ton of bullet points. It was a lot of graphics. It was basically storytelling, and having to be able to, have the ability to navigate through that very swiftly, fluidly, every 15 seconds. So, we all pulled it off. We still have yet to see the footage. So for those of you who've been along with me on the journey the past several weeks, thank you. Thank you. I know I've got some really amazing friends out there who've been with me and supporting me. No videos yet, but if you're curious just to know what I'm talking about, go to disrupthr.co. And they're global, and they are amazing, amazing speakers. So,
Wow.
yes.
Wow. And that's a really interesting thing about I recently spoke at Uplift Live, and I prepared for months to do this presentation. And you think you've got it, like you've nailed it, you've practiced, you've got it all down. But it's until the actual day that you step onto the stage and you go, oh, this is a little bit different than I thought it would be. Like we all envision, okay, I'm just going to get up and I'm going to do stuff. But like you said, there was monitors in the front, and we didn't exactly know how this would all work. So the day of the event, and this is something I recommend to everybody, if you're going to go speak somewhere, if you can get there a little bit early and ask them, can I hop on the stage? Because I think that really helps you kind of solidify, okay, now before it's your turn to just go out, if you can see everything in advance early that morning, it really helps. It also helps if you're not the first speaker, so that also helps as well. But I know, like, we had 4 monitors, and you kind of, I think we knew that we were going to have that, but we had, here's your slide, here's your second slide, your speaker notes. And then I don't remember what the other thing was. It's a blank now. But the one thing that I didn't prepare for, because like you talked about timing, was I didn't prepare for the timing to go backwards. So I had practiced my presentation in Canva, because I made my presentation in Canva. I practiced my presentation in Canva. And if you ever use Canva, it's got a really great thing. You just hit the button and you see the timer going up. Well, the day of the presentation, I saw that the timer went down. So I had 30 minutes on the clock, and all of a sudden I realized I didn't practice that way. So I kind of had said, oh, when I get to 10 minutes, I'll be here, this slide. When I get to 20 minutes, yada, yada, yada. Well, my brain, because I'm missing the math gene, I couldn't do it. And it was just like, oh my goodness, so those are the kind of things that you think you've prepared, but even on the day of, you can get thrown a little bit of loop, because we just can't anticipate everything, so to speak.
Which is normal. And 2, your adrenaline's going. There's so many different factors that go into it. And so, it's meant to be, and going back to everything that we do should be fun. There's so many elements to it. And the one thing that I always say is, and I think I've shared this before, is you need to have fun in the moment. Like, enjoy the moment. You can panic for a moment, but remember why you're there. And one of the things that really still stands out for me that people were saying to me even during my presentation was, your audience, they haven't seen your presentation yet. So even if you think you mess up, or even if the timing's off, or even if something's missing, no one knows that. And afterwards, no one's really honestly going to care. That's the one thing that I keep giving myself grace on, and I keep reminding others to do as well. So yeah, it's just being prepared for the, expect the unexpected, as they say. So
Yes, absolutely. And I've always believed that too. It's like, people don't know your script. So if you all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I don't have time for this story, and out it goes, nobody's going to know that. And I think you have to be flexible in the moment, because all of a sudden you might realize, I have to make the time, so I have to let go of this, or I had to rearrange this, or oops, I missed a slide, or I actually mispronounced the title of my presentation. I'm like, how did I do that? But it was because there was like some sort of weird thing on like one of the screens, and it was distracting me. And I just went, okay, nobody cares. I'm just going to keep moving forward. And those are the kind of things. And, it's funny. I remember years ago that I watched this, and I'm going to put this in the show notes for people in case they want to see this. But I remember watching this guy, and his name's Michael Bay. He's like a director, and he does all sorts of stuff in Hollywood. And he was doing a conference for Sony, and he walked out, and somehow the teleprompter got screwed up. And he was supposed to be talking about like a new TV that was coming out. It was at the conference, and he freaked out and had a meltdown and walked off the stage. And everybody was like, what do we do? Like he just had a temper tantrum and he left. And I remember watching that, and I just went, I will never be that person. No matter whatever life throws at me, just roll with it, keep moving. And I've never forgotten him, because I just thought that was so unprofessional. So I think you just have to always have this mindset that no matter what happens, I can handle it.
Even too, for people, and I feel like this happened maybe at a TEDx or something, but I remember one speaker at one point that I saw, and I wish I could remember exactly when and where, but I remember the speaker it wasn't a tantrum. It was more just, they were nervous and just started to get a little bit emotional, like the whole, oh my God, I can't do this. What, that type of, without verbalizing it, but you could tell that they were thrown. And then you have the audience cheering for you. You know what I mean? And then when you can step into that and embrace that, it lifts you back up. And that's the biggest thing too. And what I've learned to do, even in my flustered moments, I've always laughed. I mean, I've been on, even last week, and we were talking about this. I mean, I was on a live last week, and it's not the same as a presentation, but still you're getting in front of people. You want to share a message and you want to convey everything. And, for the most part, people who were joining us knew who I was. But, and so they're like, oh, it's G, it's quirky G. But then all of a sudden, I mean, the camera action, I kept disappearing off camera and then reappearing and then disappearing. And I knew nothing of what was going on camera. But in the background, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to figure out, okay, what can I do? But even then I didn't really lose my cool, because I was laughing to myself. And then I got back on and just, you laugh about it. And people are forgiving of you. Like, they want to see you succeed. People, for the most part, are not there to bash on you and to criticize you. And I always say to myself, I'm doing something by being in front of people or putting myself out there that a lot of other people wouldn't even dare to do. No matter how it goes, at least you're trying, and people can't fault you for that. So I lean into that in those moments of uncertainty, or, oh no, this is going wrong. But the tantrum thing I don't get, but that's what I try to tell myself anyway, in those awkward moments, because they happen,
Yes, absolutely. And, we kind of talk about turning these things into brand gold. And, I remember years ago, I had a situation where I had a live with, I think it was with Jeff Young. And, I thought I had hit the end broadcast button, and I didn't. And we were like just sitting there, and Jeff was like, I think we're still live. And I was like, oh my gosh. So anyways, I ended the stream afterwards, and then I was going to go and delete it. And Jeff just went, well, let me go see it before you delete it. And then I went, why would I delete it? That's not me. Like, that's about what you're talking about with the brand gold, that it's like, no, my thing is that stuff happens. Things have to be easy peasy. That is my brand. And so if I start to make things that it's like, oh, I can't handle a snafu and those type of things, then I'm not true to my brand. And I kind of laugh how, last week when you were on Michelle's live and you were disappearing and then you were coming back. Well, one of the things that you're actually using as you niche down is you're using this phrase called the transition magician. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Because it's such a great phrase, but it's almost as if like, yes, you are a transition. You had a webcam that was like,
It's the funniest thing. And thank you for asking. And what's really funny about that was, so okay, so a little bit of quick backstory. Many, many years ago, a good friend of mine and I were talking, and we coined for me the transition magician. And basically, at the time, it was me being in work transition or employment transition, if you will, and fluidly navigating my topsy-turvy journey while helping others along with theirs. So it kind of stuck. And then in recent months, that just kind of popped back into my branding, if you will, and now I'm leaning into it. I'm that. So call it gold, whatever you want to call it. But last week with Michelle, because Michelle and I have been talking, Michelle Griffin, we've been talking a little bit about, branding and about my own niching. And I've been on this for years. I've been following her for years on this niche piece. And she's been encouraging me about leaning into this transition magician. So when I kept, don't ask me how, but I automatically just randomly went poof, gone off camera, and then reappeared and poof, gone. It never happened before in any time that I've done a live or been on camera, but somehow, and if you go back, there's a bloopers reel in my recent content, but it's just kind of like, here I am, there I'm gone, there I'm gone, da, da, da. And Michelle brought that up and said, oh, and she made reference to the transition magician. And it was a random thing, and it generates laughs and fun. And again, that's quirky. It's me. It's my brand. I just shake my head and say, what can you do?
I love
and,
it.
you've got to laugh along the way. And knowing that you have a cheering section, people who want to see you succeed and they want to see you shine. And yeah, I could see myself maybe getting upset, going back to that example you shared earlier. I think you said his name was Michael Bay. I think I could see myself getting more upset or emotional, like, sad, like, oh my gosh, I feel awkward, versus throwing a tantrum. But I could also see in that moment other people being there for me and lifting me up, the way that I saw people in this, I think it was a TEDx talk, lifting this other person up, because you just want to see people shine, doing what they're there to do, which is bring a message and add some value.
I like that. I like that. So speaking of people cheering you on, we've got people cheering us on today. We have Jeff Young over on YouTube. Looking forward to the two LinkedIn ladies sharing some fun stories, Gillian and G. G-Force in full. G-Force in full. And then he hops over to LinkedIn. I love this. Talk about your transition magician. He pops in and out of different social platforms.
Is that what he's doing?
Yes. First he's on YouTube, then he's on LinkedIn. Ready to experience the G and G Force today, feeling of a real caring experience. Oh, that's our force. I love that. I love that. Oh, that's great. That's great. Kevin's here. I'm in the lobby. Gillian and G, please let me in. And Kevin's amazing because he has dealt with speaker Snafus, himself when I think his timer went out. So it was just like when he was doing Uplift Live, his timer just disappeared. And so
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, and he just had to have a feeling of like, well, kind of feels like I've talked long enough, So that was good. But he's actually been a host on my live, didn't even mean to, because I fell out of the live and Kevin just kept going. So again, these are things that show that you are adaptable, you're flexible, you're able to think fast on your feet, because it's like, if you can do stuff when everything goes perfectly and you can do well, that's great. But it's like, what can you juggle when life is all of a sudden giving you, crazy lemons? What can you do with those? So I think it's so important. So important.
And Gillian, can we touch on the Kevin scenario for a second? Just because I want to give both of you a ton of props for that recent live that you had. And it was right before you went off to the UK. And I remember, if memory serves, I think it was right before. And I remember I was sitting here watching it, and I remember all of a sudden you left the camera, and I don't know exactly to this day what happened in that moment.
Internet went out. Internet just
was it just the internet?
Yeah.
But this goes back to preparedness too. And the one thing that we're all big Kevin Turner fans, right? Kevin D. Turner. The one thing I really appreciated about that moment was he continued to educate your audience, even though it was your show. He didn't say, I'm done with this, or I'm out of here. He kept it going for however long he thought he was on camera for, and to support you. And that's what it's about, just being prepared for what your topic is and what you want to share. Going back to what I was sharing earlier about the messaging that we want people to have as a takeaway from us. And even in that moment, I always get huge value from Kevin D. Turner, but in that moment too, it was appreciated. So
absolutely. And it's kind of interesting. I remember, you probably don't know this about me, but I used to be a Cub Scout mother, and I used to like run a den. It's like in my prior life. And one of the things that I learned with Cub Scouts is I always had to bring enough to entertain, I don't know, 20 boys, whatever. And I always brought one extra thing in case they went fast, because I think one time I showed up and it was like, they got everything done and they were like, now what? And I was like, what do you mean now what? Like, I was sitting here reading a book. Like, you're supposed to be able to do stuff, right? And so I learned that I always had to have a little bit more than would fill the hour. And that is a good tip of whatever you're doing. So for instance, I brought a book today, right? Because The Gifts of Imperfection, it's one of my favorites by Brene Brown, which is relating to the topic. Because if anything happened today, I could talk about the book. It's like, always have something with you, an extra story, an extra little thing, so that if you have to do some ad-libbing, you don't have to like pull a rabbit out of your hat, unless you're a transition magician and you can do that sort of thing. But always have that, like, think like a Cub Scout mom, always have a little extra activity, so no matter what it is, because sometimes it's very taxing to like, well, let's see, I have to finish this live all by myself today. What am I going to talk about? So we can't all be Kevin D. Turner.
I love it though. Think like a Cub Scout mom. That's a quote right there for comment. That's awesome. And yeah, I love it. And that is a great book, going back to We're Not Perfect. So it's a great book. Brene Brown's Brene Brown, but that is a great book.
Yeah, and it truly is one of my favorites. If anybody who has not read this book, it's a great book, because it's all about, I love the subtitle, because she says, let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. So that was just like, oh, yeah. So, okay, Mary Wu says, G squared. I love this. Everybody's just playing with the whole G theme. I love it. Debbie's here. Debbie Weems. Woo-hoo-hoo. Hey, from Florida. So, hey, we love our peeps from Florida. So, yay. Awesome. Debbie's here with her pink flamingos. I love that. So, yeah. Leslie says, hello from New York City. Hello, Gillian and G. So thank you for joining us today, Leslie. I appreciate it.
And Leslie was there last week. It was so funny. Leslie was there. Leslie and Renee Lindo were the two people who were in comments in my little mini quick video. And yeah, that goes back to having that support system and having that cheering audience and the people who will help continue the conversation for you and keep things energized, even when, like, almost like they know you well enough to know that you're going to pop back in eventually, but let's just keep things, like the party going, so to speak.
I love it.
She's definitely one of those people. So shout out to her in gratitude.
Yay. I love that. Oh, we got John Asperian. Hi, both. Good to see you back on live as usual after your big trip, Gillian, and a big hi to G. So that's nice. That's nice that John's here. And then Tina's from Brussels. She is hello from Brussels. And I love that Tina says, it helps to not be stuck in the elevator as the first speaker. So that, I don't know if you heard about that story, but that's something that happened to Louise Brogan.
I heard about that. Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my gosh, like if anything could, we had a crazy name for that afterwards, but it escapes me now because my brain's not working today. But it's Tina had said something, and I wondered if you could address this, because she talked earlier, she had left a comment earlier about these kind of snafus can affect people when they're job searching. And if you think about it, a job interview is kind of like a presentation. It's the same sort of thing. And this sort of stuff can happen at at a job interview as well, where it's just like, oh my gosh, anything can go wrong and you have to, be able to like, handle stuff. But as an HR perspective, from an HR perspective, do you think that sometimes that actually shows people's tenacity?
I'm so glad you brought this up because I had an interview. Actually, I had a series of interviews, and I feel like, say, if there were 4 conversations, 2 of them, I had technical snafus and I still got the job. And what was interesting, and it was on my end, I'm sure with audio or what have you, because these things periodically happen with me, but we laughed. We laughed through the conversations, and it was very, very forgiving. And I know as a recruiter, because I've done a lot of recruiting over the years, and especially over the past few years, because I've been on both sides, I give people a lot of grace for the tech piece. When you see people, though, getting flustered, or they seem almost like, they're done with the conversation, they don't want to bother anymore, it goes back to their character, I feel. And, if they're not into it, I'm not into it. It's like, I want to move on. Like, let's just move on. If you don't want to be here, then I don't want to be here to help support your being here type thing. So yeah, long answer to your short question, but it definitely plays a role. And it's important and it matters. And, we at the end of the day, I keep coming back to the fact that for the most part, people are here to see others succeed. We're not here to sit and spend our precious time waiting for something bad to happen to someone. We want to, to bring people's best selves to the forefront. That's what I like to think. So it's important in these virtual interviews. And I know Tina can probably speak much more eloquently to this, but it does matter, but it can also boost you too, because it goes back to your character and how you will ultimately present yourself in the job.
I like that. And, if you think about it, it's like how you handle interruptions, how you handle when things don't go right shows a lot about your character. And really, at the end of the day, that's kind of what's happening at a job interview. It's pretty obvious that you can do the job, or else you wouldn't be at the job interview in the first place. So sometimes the job interview is just, are you the right person for this job? Do we like your character? So seeing that you can like handle snafus and all sorts of crazy things happening, it makes you go, well, then that would be a good person to be on our team, because they're flexible, they're adaptable. All those things are, I think, going to be so important. So yes, very, very good. Jeff says stuck in the lift. So yes, stuck in the lift.
That's classic.
So Mary Wu says, you've got to roll with the punches. Yes, I'm quoting Jimmy Buffett lyrics, Cowboy in the Jungle. I don't know that song. I'll have to go check that one out, because I'm a huge Jimmy Buffett fan and I don't know that song. And it's too funny and fun to delete it, Gillian. Best laugh I had all day. I think he's referring to
that video.
Yeah. When we just, oops, we did it again. And it was just like, I think I did it several times. Debbie says, stumble while speaking in real life. Sometimes you just have to admit that you're a human. And I think that brings us together. It's like we just do want to show that we're human, and stuff happens. Stuff happens. Leslie says, you have a big cheering section, G. Isn't that nice?
Yes, you know what? And I keep going back to last week, and it's funny, when she was there, Renee Lindo used the word agile, the agility in that I was using at the time to try to navigate and figure out on the back end what's going on. And, again, it's that attempting to show up even when you're kind of stuck in the moment, and then afterwards just laughing about it. So
yes.
And having good friends helps. That definitely does. So thank you, Leslie.
Yes. And Mary says, hey, Jeff is everywhere. Luckily, you can never get rid of him because we don't want to. And that is so true. That is so true. And Leslie says, G squared. I love it. I love it. So, G, we have come to the end of our 30 minutes together. Do you want to kind of sum up with any kind of final word of wisdom for us?
It really comes back to not being afraid to try something new. And even with my recent Disrupt HR LLC talk, which I'm so excited, I can't wait for the video footage to come out. I have no idea how it's going to look, yay, nay, whatever. I don't care. I just can't wait to see everyone's videos. It'll be fun. But that's something new and bold, and you're doing something, or I feel I did something in that moment that maybe a lot of other people would have been afraid to try. And that goes with anything. It's putting yourself out there, letting people know what you're looking for, and letting people cheer you on. You know, people are going to root for you. And even today, with all of your supporters here, Gillian, I mean, you always have a very faithful fan base that shows up for you every week, even in the snafus, I mean, again, I still remember the Kevin video. That was fun. That was a lot of fun to watch. But you've got people cheering for you. We're not going to fault anyone for it. We're excited, and we're all here to do good things and share good messaging. And I think that should be celebrated, not not poo-pooed.
I love that. I love that. That's a good summary. And you're right. At the end of the day, do something new. I would love to have an opportunity to do that timed presentation that you talked about, because it's like, I remember when you first told me about it and I just went, oh my gosh, like that would be, that would really be like a leap to do something that disciplined. But I always actually like things that you can learn from. And I think that timing is so important. And I know, like, that's one of my things in Toastmasters is we always learn that timing matters. You can't just go, well, I think I'll just go talk for an hour. It's like, if you got 30 minutes to talk, you have to be able to talk in 30 minutes. So it's really important. So, but to do something where the slides advance for you, wow, I just think that's cool. So I think I'm going to open up my mind and see if like that might even be something that I could get a bunch of us together and we could maybe do it virtually. I think it would be a really fun thing. So
you know what, I would do it again in a heartbeat. And for anyone watching this, if you're looking, and I know it's a slightly separate topic, but on the topic of speaking, for anyone who is considering speaking, it's an amazing exercise. Practice. Think of something, pick a topic that's of importance to you where you can share some digestible tips, break it down into 20 slides, time it in 5 minutes in PowerPoint. That's how we structured it. And memorize it. Tell a story about it. And for examples, go to disrupthr.co, and you'll find so many amazing examples out there of what it is I'm talking about. It's really hard to explain it, but they're timed. And that goes with anyone, though. It doesn't have to be an HR topic. Just pick a topic of importance to you, a story you want to tell, almost like TEDx. But this, I don't know how TEDx is formatted with their slides and their transitions and such. But this is very specific, and it's an amazing disciplinary exercise to be able to say, hey, I want to share, 3 quick ideas in 5 minutes, and here's how you do it. So just a quick tip. So for anyone,
that's a great tip. That's a great tip.
Do it. It's great practice, and it'll be amazing whether you're interviewing, whether you're in conversations. It's telling a story. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all here to do, is enjoy, edutain, if you will, and, support each other along the way. So
I love it. I love it. And I think that would be a great thing to record. It's like, do it, record it. And you've got like some sort of like killer little video as well. So
absolutely.
It's a good one. Great challenge. Great challenge. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for being here today, G. This has been fun. Great topic and very, very relevant to everybody. And you were so great to be my first person back on U.S. soil. So thanks for being here. Okay, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll see everybody next week. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.